the second session today, which I know we're halfway through already, but the second session today is about the learning loop and about how to revise. Okay, and this is where what I was just saying about the command words comes in. Okay, so I have a learning loop, and I could give you my little video, but it's rubbish. It's just me, and I'm very sort of robotic, and it's not very good. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to explain the learning loop to you. It is really simple. It is 3 steps. The learning loop is find out what you don't know, fill in the holes in your knowledge, do more practice questions. And that is it. But it sounds really simple. It is really simple, but it's actually also very difficult to make sure that you do it properly. And historically, I've been saying this for a very long time, but lots and lots of people kind of miss the important step. So yes, doing lots of past papers is important. That's step 3. And doing those past papers means that you can find out what you don't know, because those are the questions you couldn't do or you didn't score full marks on. But then filling in the holes in your knowledge, that's the second step. That's the important one, because that's the step where your brain is getting bigger. That's the step where you make it so that the next time you come across a question like the one you couldn't do, you can do it. Okay, so, and that's where your grade goes up. Okay, now figuring out what you don't know, that's relatively straightforward, or you'd think it would be, wouldn't it? Because it's the questions you couldn't do. Right now, I bet that you lot, especially the people that have been with me for a long time and know the 3-step learning loop that you go round and round and round and round, you do some questions and then you look at the questions and you say to yourself, right, well, this question was about momentum, so obviously I didn't understand momentum properly. And you go away and you learn the momentum stuff again, and then the next time you come across a question like that, you could do it maybe. But the chances are that the reason you couldn't do a question, most of you, maybe some of you might still struggle with some of the physics, but you've been learning physics for a year, nearly, if you're year 12, now 9 months, or you know, a year and a half if you're year 13, right? Your physics is probably pretty good. And every time you can't do a question, your immediate reaction is, oh, well, I don't understand physics. And it's probably not that. So the learning loop, it sounds really simple, isn't it? Find out what you don't know. So those are the questions you couldn't do, and then fill in the holes in your knowledge. Well, the temptation is for you to think that the questions you can't do because of the physics, because that's hard, right? Physics is hard. Except that you guys are really intelligent and you're really good at physics, you're really good at maths, you can do numbers. Actually, it's not the physics that's the problem, it's the exam techniques. So when you look at a question that you couldn't do, I don't want you to immediately jump to, well, I couldn't understand the physics. I want you to immediately jump to, which exam technique have I not got right? Why couldn't I answer this discuss question or this explain question properly? And I want you to recognize that it's probably not your physics that's the problem. And you guys are, most of you, almost all of you, really numerate. You like numbers. The calculate questions quite often hold no fear for you. I mean, occasionally you get stuck in a little loop and you're not quite sure about the potential gravitational potential equation thing, but most of the time, actually, you understand what you're trying to do, and the calculate questions are quite good, and they're nice to you, and you score well on them. But you can't do the explain and the describe and the discuss and the compare and the criticize and the assess and that. You can't do those ones, and there's a lot of them. So you think that it's your physics that's the problem, but it probably isn't. Okay, so now, because you are all logical people, I want you to look back at the papers that you've already done. And I want you to look at the questions that you couldn't do, And I want you to start looking for patterns in the exam techniques that are apparently lacking, that you are now beginning to learn about. So how to answer an explain question. So look at a previous explain answer that you perhaps didn't get right. And instead of criticizing your physics, criticize your exam technique and say, right, well, is there a key fact? Is there a consequence? Is there a consequence of the consequence? Did I actually do what it said to do? So, and I want you to start looking at your failures, your questions that you couldn't do, right? It's just feedback, really, not failure. And I want you to start recognizing that it's probably an exam technique that is getting in your way, not the physics. And occasionally, obviously, it is the physics, but quite often it's not. And so especially for the wordy questions, you know, explain. And there are a lot of explains, so many explains on a paper. And so this is the 3-step method. Find out what you don't know. Now that's important. So we're talking about now looking at the questions that you got wrong and then figuring out what it is that you didn't know that meant that you couldn't do those questions. Oh, somebody's coming in. Oh, it looks like I get a cup of coffee, is it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yay. Okay, so, and 2 dogs. Hello, Barney. Okay, so at least the bigger one doesn't get on the desk. But anyway, right, okay, so where was I? I was saying, right, so find out what you don't know. So these are questions that you couldn't do, right? And now look for the thing that actually you couldn't do. Was it the physics? Was it an exam technique? Did you not know how to answer an explain question or a discuss question or a describe question properly? Did you actually do what it said in the question to do? Especially those 6 marker questions that you should now be really good at from yesterday, okay? There is a one-to-one relationship between what it says to do and what you've got to put. Did you do that? And if you didn't, now you know where to fill in the holes in your knowledge. And then you actually have to do it. So if one of your problems is 6 markers, and it often is, okay, you do a 6-mark question, and then you look at the answers. Don't look at them first, look at them afterward. Then re-answer the question using the answers. Now, what have you got? You've got what your best guess was when you didn't know what the answers were, and now you've got a proper answer which filled in all of the things that are on the mark scheme. Okay, those indicative content bits. Don't worry about the gubbins to the left, the indicative content stuff, right? And what you've got to do is you've got to recognize that yeah, sure, some of the indicative content you might just not have thought of, but it doesn't mean that you didn't understand the physics. You've just got to get enough of it that you fill in the criteria that they've asked you to put. So describe this, explain this, do that, yeah, describe an experiment, right? Have I written a method? Have I decided what graph to plot? When I'm analysing, and so on, right? I want you to recognise that what you are doing when you're filling in the holes in your knowledge is not just doing physics. It's filling in the holes in your exam techniques, so that the next time you come across a 6-mark describe question, you are in a much better, stronger, more informed position of exactly what you've got to put because of what they've said. So you need to look for the patterns in the exam techniques. You're good at looking at patterns in physics equations and in numbers. You're really good at it. Apply it to the words. The words are very, very specific. Explain means key fact consequence. Describe means say what you see, or say what you would do if you're describing a method. I mean, literally imagine yourself doing it and say, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. literally. And short sentences. If you keep your sentences short, you get tied up in knots much, much less. So short sentences, and then do exactly what it says. So if it says describe and explain, you need to make sure that you have both said what you would see, you know, the resistance goes up, and you've explained why the resistance goes up. And the fact that the resistance goes up could be your first key fact, okay, in your key fact consequence for your explain. And it often is. That's why they combine describe and explain so often. Okay. Now, so the 3-step process, this learning loop that you've got to get your heads round, the 3-step process is find out what you don't know, fill in the holes, do more practice questions. So you've got to have lots and lots of practice questions. Right now, one of the things that all my students have got, the previous ones, as opposed to the ones that have just come on the Easter course, is what I call a work plan. Now, all of you Easter people should also have a physics pathway. So I'm going to explain about both of those so that you can see what I mean about practice and doing this 3-step process. So if I go back to, where's my course? Okay, so in my course, right, the work plans are available. I'm going to go to my website actually. So now it's not in this top menu. I do give work plans away as a freebie, usually when I do a masterclass. Can you see in this bottom right hand corner down here? Let me draw a big pink arrow down to it. There, that one. There's a work plan. Okay, can you see there? So if you do not have a work plan yet, it's just a list of papers to do, but if you don't have one yet, click on that button. It will put you through to this page on my website, and I'll get rid of that arrow now, I don't need it. And obviously, it's very small, you fill in the form, okay, and you can click on whichever of these work plans is the right one for you. Okay, I don't think I've got any OCRB people, but I certainly have a year 12s for all 3 courses and year 13s for all 3 courses. Now, most of you will have already got these. So you click on there, you press submit. Obviously, you have to say who you are, otherwise the email won't go to the right place. So you've got to fill in this bit. But if you do that, then you have to wait maybe as much as 10 minutes, but probably 5. You will be emailed a work plan. And the work plans are really, really simple, basically. Hang on, let's go from downloads. I'm going to just pull up a work plan. Hang on. You'd think, wouldn't you, that I'd have got these already, but I'm useless. Work plans, there we go. Right, so I'll just pull this across so you can see what I'm doing. So here are my work plans, and let's just pick the year 13 one, I don't know, OCRA. And you can see that here is a list of papers. They are not in order, and that is quite deliberate. And there's a link to the mark schemes, okay? That's the ones on the left linking to the ones on the right. And you've got some suggested dates. Now, these suggested dates, can you see the last one when the real paper is after the real paper? So that's rubbish. But what I can, and the other thing is, can you see that we've got the current course? So 2018 is the current course. The current course, the current specification was first examined in 2017. So anything before that is what's called a legacy paper. So that's the current course. And then this one, can you see it's the old AS paper 2? Okay, and then this one is the old A2 paper 4, because they used to be like 6 papers. The reason there were so many is because they used to do a practical exam the practical exam was nearly always paper 3. But yeah, it turned into papers 1 and 2 were AS, and it was a modular course, so you could do them in January, you could do them in, anyway, it was much better. But anyway, so papers 1 and 2 is basically year 12 work. Paper 3 was the practical. Papers 4 and 5, and sometimes 6, for instance, an optic paper. Papers 4 and 5 were year 13 work. Yeah, that's how it works. So there were lots and lots of papers. But yeah, so now some of them are not appropriate. So the practical papers required that you had kit, and you can't do them, which is one of the reasons why I've got the extra practical papers that I told you about in the practical session for year 13, which was when Sunday night, I think. Sunday was the practical, I think. Anyway, whatever, if they're in there, there's the extra practical papers are available. Perhaps I'll just show you. I'll show you. So this is the exam technique course. I want to go back to the Easter course. So circuits and capacitors, standing waves, it wasn't, it was Monday. There it is, there's the practical one. And here they all are. So there's OCR Practical Skills exam pack, the Edexcel one, and there's 3 AQA ones. That's because AQA have a separate practical paper. It's half of their paper 3, the other half is the option topic. So so these are extra practical practice papers that have been created by Lewis Matheson from Physics Online, and I've bought them for my students. So I've bought the school's versions so I can hand them out to students. I don't have any copyright problems because I've bought them for you. So so you've got, these are extra practical papers, because the legacy papers don't give you extra practicals, because they basically were testing practicals with a real practical exam. So this is my work plan, and you can see it's just a list of papers right now. The papers are not in order. When you are building up to your exams, whether you're doing year 13 like these ones, or whether you're doing year 12 before your year 12 exams, you do not want to do a paper 1 and then another paper 1 and then another paper 1. And paper 1 comes first, so I'm going to do another paper 1, and then I'm going to do another paper 1. And then you do paper 2s, because paper 2 is going to come up fairly soon after paper 1, and you do some paper 2s, you do some paper 2s, you do some paper 2s, and then you go back to paper 1 because paper 1 is next, and you never get to practice any paper 3s. And the only time you ever practice any paper 3s is between paper 2 and paper 3, and that's like less than a week. That is not a good way to prepare for your exam. So what you need to do is you need to actually start doing paper 3s as early as you can, to make sure that you've done enough of them that you get good enough at it. Now, I am aware that some of you haven't finished the course yet, and most of you have, but there will be a few people, and there will be little bits of the course that some of you still haven't done. But you're all of you intelligent people. If you have a question paper that's got a question on something that you have not yet learned, leave it until you've learned it and then do it. I mean, maybe make a note of it on the front of the thing. And I hope you're keeping all your past papers in a folder all together, and then not spread all over your room, or you know, screwed up in the bottom of your locker at school or whatever. I want you to be consistent, and so I've suggested that you start doing paper 3s early, and that you do them every so often. Obviously keep ticking over, but paper 1, especially for year 13, that is your year 12 content. Your year 12 content should be pretty secure by now. So one would hope that your paper 1 performance is okay. It might not be brilliant, and the reason it's not brilliant is probably not the year 12 content. It's probably your exam techniques. And you can practice your exam techniques by doing paper 2 or paper 3. So I want you to make sure that you mix and match. You're putting in papers 3 early, you're doing enough papers 2, and every so often do a paper 1 to keep that ticking over, okay? And can you see then that you start off with paper 1s, but that was meant to be in March, even earlier than March. I'd have suggested January, but we can't go back in time. And you need to do these papers frequently, okay? Now, I have suggested that you do another paper today. I mean, obviously, some of it could be done in the hour that you're not doing the year 12 or the year 13 session, depending if you're year 12 or year 13. But I am hoping that you will finish that paper today, right? Right, if I put in today's date, which is the 16th of the 4th, 2025, then these dates all down here change. Right, now can you see the second one down? I don't know if you can see my mouse. The second one down, that one that is now highlighted, up here in this top corner, is the one above it plus 3. And we've already seen that that doesn't get you to do all of these papers. Well, you wouldn't finish them until the end of July. So that's rubbish. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that from a plus 3 to a plus 2. Let's see whether or not that's okay. So now, go back. That one, oh, I changed it. I wanted to change it to a plus 2. Change it to a plus 2, please. Did that work? Yes, that worked. Right, so now what I'm going to do is just copy that and drag it down to the bottom. Again, right, we wouldn't finish until after the end of the final exam, which means that it depends whether or not you've done some of these already. Obviously, probably most of you would have done some, but we're looking at doing a paper every day now to get through I mean, if you were to do all of these, you would improve your grade in your final exam. I mean, honestly, even if you do nothing else, if you just do the papers and don't analyse them and don't figure out what you're getting wrong and don't fill in the holes in your knowledge, if you just do the papers, because you're practicing the thing that you're going to be doing in your exam. But obviously, it would be even better if you were working to improve your score by putting right the holes in your knowledge in between each paper. That obviously is going to be incredibly powerful. Is there a timetable like that for AQA? Yes, there is. I showed you how to get it. You go to that work plan thing. Yes, there's one exactly like this. So yes. So you go to, where was it? This page, it's there you go, there's the address. I'll pop it in, hang on, copy. Where's the chat? Oh, that's a direct message, I don't want that. Group chat, Control V. Oh, bounce. Right, the work plans URL then is in the group chat. Okay, Zach? So go to this page, click on yours. So you'd click on the, are you year 13? I can't remember. AQA. You'd click on that one and you'd get sent this. You'd get sent this one, year 13, AQA, that one. You'd get sent this one. Okay, and it's more complicated because there are option topics. So, but it's exactly the same in every other respect, really. Okay, is that all right? Yay. Okay, so so you're going to do as many papers as you can, obviously, but it's even better if in between doing each paper you look at the things you got wrong and then you put them right. And the things you got wrong might not be physics. In fact, it probably isn't. There might be some little bits of physics that maybe you didn't quite remember. But it's unlikely at this stage that most of you, because all of you really intelligent people, It's going to be the exam techniques that's holding you back, almost certainly. Now, I want you, all of you, to promise me something. I want you, please, when you are practicing papers, when you've got a question and you're like, oh, it's an explain, I don't want to do it. Oh, I don't want to do it. And you leave it blank. Never do that. Never do that. Because you learn nothing if you don't do the things that you don't want to do because you find them hard. You've got to do those things in order to get better at them. And I know it's like, you know, learning to ride a bicycle, and you try it and you fall off, and you try it and you fall off, and you try it. And lots of people don't learn to ride a bicycle when they're adults, so they're not familiar with the trying it and getting it wrong, and trying it and getting it wrong, and trying it and getting it wrong. And it's really, really soul destroying doing it. That's why learning is so hard. But honestly, it's worth it. So never leave a blank. Promise me you won't leave a blank on your paper. Give it a go. Even your worst guess is better than nothing. It destroys me to know that actually we train this into you in schools. I mean, I'm you know, to blame as much as any other teacher. When you're in school and you're asked a question, and the teacher says, you know, what is this, and you put your hand up, and then the teacher says, no, you're wrong, and you go, oh, I wish I hadn't put my hand up. I'm never going to put my hand up again. So you don't volunteer information. We train it out of you. We make it so unpleasant for you to get things wrong that you'd rather not offer an answer. And obviously in your A level, that's not going to work. No answer is wrong. Even your worst guess is better than no answer. And your worst guess has got a really good chance of actually scoring something. So just give it a go. Okay, promise me that you won't leave any blanks when you're practicing your papers. Promise me you won't. I mean, even now, I am getting from my own students papers where there are blanks. Don't leave any blanks, because I can't, I've got nothing to help you with if you don't give me anything to say, you know, this is right. So when you are handing in your paper tomorrow, to me, you're submitting it to me. That's the one that you're supposed to do tomorrow. When you're handing that in, don't hand in a paper that's got any blanks. I mean, if you genuinely can't even attempt something, then that's something. But if it's a discuss or describe or explain, then you've got at least things. Right, so the paper the year 12 need to submit tomorrow is an A-level paper. You're right. It says, won't there be a lot of content that we don't know? There might be. I can't remember. Yes, it's a paper one. It's a proper A-level paper one. Yes, there's going to be some further mechanics that you haven't done. So any questions on circular motion and the simple harmonic motion, you can leave those out. I'll let you leave those out, all right, Tej? So if it genuinely is the case that you haven't learned the stuff, obviously leave it out. And I won't criticize you for that. But if it's something that you have done, give it a go. So you're expected to an A-level paper one. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I know what I mean. The thing is, right, that at AS, the year 12 content is split into two. So there's paper one and paper two. And if I was going to examine you on the whole of year 12, I would have to make up a paper. So I thought, well, let's not bother with that. Let's just give them a paper one from year 13. And then that examines them on the whole of year 12 plus a little bit. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, a lot of thought goes into making a paper, and it's a lot of work for me to create something, especially that, and all of you in year 12, you haven't finished learning this year. There are going to be bits in there that you can't do, okay, because it's content that you haven't yet learned. I mean, there is going to be stuff there, but even if I was to give you year 12 papers, there still would be. It's going to be up to you to say, we haven't learned this yet. So if you've come across a question that you haven't learned the content of yet, just put you haven't learned it yet and then leave that one out. I'll let you leave those ones out, right? Year 13s don't get that. The year 13s have to do every question, please. Okay, please. Right, okay. We have got overrun again, always. All right, so right now I should be doing year 12, and we are supposed to be doing Newton's laws, impulse and momentum.